Tracy Newman.
And this is her sister, Laraine Newman.
And we're talking with Rabbi Sol Solomon
on Dave's Gone By.
Oh, Schmeckle.
Shabbat Shabobby.
Oh, shalom, my friends, shalom, my enemies. This is your old pal, Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. And I am so delighted. I am going to be talking to two family members, sisters, schwesters, as we would say in Yiddish, and they're both very funny and talented and musical, and they are Jewesses, which is the most important thing. First of all, we'll be talking with Tracy Newman. She was a member of the Groundlings, and then she wrote for a bunch of TV shows like Bob Newhart and Cheers, and a very famous episode of the Ellen sitcom. And according to Jim, she founded that show. Plus, she's now gotten into writing children's songs and children's music. Her name is Tracy Newman, and that would be more than enough for an interview. But she's also brought her sister along. You might have know this person too. She was in the Groundlings as well. She's done voices for a lot of movies like Finding Nemo and The Incredibles and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and of course Oswald the Octopus. You'll even hear her voice in that new movie The Grinch, and yeah, she did this TV show many years ago, Saturday Night something. Her name's Laraine Newman. The two Newman Schwesters are with us in the neighborhood. Shalom to you both.
Hello, Rabbi Sol.
Shalom. Shalom.
Shalom to you. So it's so great
That's a nice introduction.
Yes.
Well,
Didn't
thank
know
you.
we did all that stuff.
Right, I'd like to meet these two ladies.
Well, we're thrilled to meet both these ladies. And of course, the most important question, and I know the question that is on the mind of everyone in our audience is, Tracy, what was it like being in the New Christie Minstrels?
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Let me just, fess up right away. I was in there for 1 month at the most. I did the Victimone. Nobody knows who that is. Victimone used to have a television show. I did a couple of those shows, and then I was out on my ass on my keister.
Oh, my God. Well, did you feel weird about being in a band that had Christ in its name? That would bother me.
Did you even consider that?
No, it didn't even occur to me. I was so excited to be with, one of two women with 8 men. I loved it.
Oh, well, there's...
Also, she didn't leave because she didn't have the goods. It was because she couldn't read music, right?
Yeah, I couldn't read music, and I wasn't a soprano. They needed a soprano. It was a lot of reasons, and I was heartbroken for about a minute, and then I went to Europe.
Oh, wow, okay.
Where lots of Jewesses go to get over heartbreak.
And did you bring your guitar and did you do any busking when you were around Europe, or you just...
I did. I actually did, and there was a magazine called we were in Perugia in Italy,
Ooh.
Perugina or something like that. It was like the Time magazine of Italy, and they did a whole article on 3 foreign, American girls at the University of in Perugia, and so it was very cool, and I played guitar on it, and I can actually send you pictures, so you could probably look it up somewhere.
Oh, that'd be amazing, because there's a wonderful video of you going back to some 1960-something in black and white, when you were already doing children's folk music.
I know. That's so sweet of you to find that. It was a PBS series called What's New out of New York, and I did 6 one-half-hour episodes, which I wrote and starred in, and I did about 60 songs, and, you can find those tapes.
You see, Rabbi, this family has had our whole lives recorded on the world stage.
Well, now, were you both in the Groundlings around the same time?
Oh, yeah. Yes, Tracy got me into the Groundlings, and we're actually founding members. It was originally just an improv workshop, and then we formed the Groundlings.
Mm-hmm. I dragged her kicking and screaming.
Oh, I'm sure. So, do you remember, was there an audition process for either of you, or you just kind of...
Oh, not back then. No, it was like just joining a class. You paid your $40 or whatever it was, and you got to go on stage in the class. Gary Austin was the teacher.
Right.
And, oh, my God, Laraine, you did sort of audition, though, didn't you, when I brought you.
I don't.
Well, all I know is that it was the funniest thing I have ever. I mean, I knew Laraine was funny because she grew up with me. I'm older than her, so I was like a little second mommy.
Oh.
Indeed, you were.
And I knew she was funny, but I mean, to see her, the director of the class give a direction to her and have her follow it was staggering to me. She was so funny. And I didn't really know. I didn't know all the characters were there in her. Little voices now and then as a child she did. But I mean, really, it was a revelation to me. She was so brilliant.
Oh, you.
Oh.
Actually, the class brought that out in me, and it brought it out in all of us.
Yeah,
and
it did.
My God, I could just say this, that if I had tried to get into the Groundlings now,
right,
I probably would not have.
I think you still would, though, because you do characters. I certainly would not, though. I don't do any characters, so,
So you were more about, it wasn't written down, but you were more about coming up with situations or punchlines or...
I just was more about responding and also being myself. That was the only thing I was comfortable doing.
Which was very charming.
But really what happens in there is the people who do characters, they just have so many other opportunities in the Groundlings. And so that's what I'm saying. I don't think I'd get in now, certainly not based on my character work.
Right. We're talking, by the way, with the Newman sisters, Tracy and Laraine. So in terms of then, being sisters, and you obviously get along fabulously well, right? Was it always like that, or in those early years were you more competitive and jealous and all that sort of thing?
No, again, I say I'm older than her. I mean, really older. Like I could be her older sister.
If this were Appalachia, no, not even that.
I'm enough older than her that I was babysitting, when they were born. So when she has a twin brother, it's Paul and Laraine, actually. Well, that's how I know them, Paul and Laraine. And I have never had one second of jealousy toward my sister, and I don't think she's ever, I don't really know the other way, but
I just don't want anyone else to have you.
Well, that's very flattering. So, we've always had a pretty easy relationship.
Yeah, we're best friends.
Yeah.
Yay!
She stayed with me recently for a year. She lived here.
Yeah, I sold my house. I couldn't find another place to buy. It took me a long time, and then once I got it, I did an intense remodel. So I stayed with Tracy for a year, and oh, Rabbi Sol, the TV we watched, you just can't even imagine.
Well, I imagine I read somewhere... I'm sorry.
Binge watched so much.
Yes.
That
our butts got bigger.
Well, not only that, we would look at the Netflix and whatever guide and say, "Oh, this looks interesting." And 5 episodes in, we watched this. We already saw this.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, the pain.
Oh my God.
Now it's interesting. I read somewhere you have tweeted, Laraine, recently that you laughed at a sketch that they just did on SNL. Do you still watch? Do you both watch SNL?
I do sometimes.
I watch it. I love it. I love sketch comedy, and I just get so excited, when I see people with new styles and new characters. And I also, like Leah Schreiber a couple of weeks ago, what a revelation. He did such a great job.
That was funny, yeah.
Yeah, he really did a great job.
There's a new groundling on there, Heidi Gardner is fairly new. I mean, she's been there, 6 months?
Yeah, she's fantastic.
She's
I'm
fantastic.
so glad to see her on there.
Very young new groundling. I mean, it's so exciting when a new groundling gets in there. There's so many groundlings in SNL over the years.
Now, Tracy, I didn't ask this, but did your moving from the folk to the acting and then back to the folk, did your career ever intersect with a big folk movement in New York? Did you ever play at places like, Kenny's Castaways and where Dylan and Phil Oakes and those people? Did you ever intersect?
Oh, yeah.
Any stories about those people? Tom Paxton, Bob Dylan, etc.
I met Tom Paxton, but I never met Bob Dylan. I knew Phil Oakes. I played at the bitter end I was like the opening act for off and on for about a year in 1965 and 66. And, They used to say to me, "Oh, Bob Dylan was here again tonight," because I think what happened was he was at the Gaslight or Gertie's Folk City,
right?
And our shows were in such a way that he could wander around the village, but because I was emceeing, I couldn't leave, and so I didn't get to see very much there. But he wandered around. I never saw him there. I never met him. I don't even know if that's true.
But she also made friends with a lot of the comedians, and like when I was 14, I think she had visited us from New York, and she said, I want you to see my friend. He's playing at the Troubadour, Richard Pryor. He's really good.
Well, do you have any either Phil Oakes stories or Richard Pryor stories? Both troubled men, but any stories about
I do have a strange Phil Oakes story. I ran into him at the Troubadour. We're talking about early 60s, and he was sitting at the bar with this guy, and he was clearly trying to fix me up, like to pimp me out to this guy. And it was Jack Nicholson. And I didn't know, I hadn't seen Easy Rider, and so I didn't know who it was. It was just these two relatively drunk guys. I knew Phil, but...
Well, Easy Rider didn't come out till the
I don't know when it
60s.
Was. Yeah, so, this was, sometime in the mid-60s, I guess.
Well, you've already done Little
Don't try to pin me down on the date. I honestly don't remember the date exactly because I was in and out of L.A., so I was, I get sometimes New York and L.A. places mixed up. Or
what I'm suggesting is you might have met him before he was well-known.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
Yeah, because, and he was cute, but I was not interested, in that way. And, but I just remembered, in retrospect, thinking, oh my God, that was Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
Remember when I came to SNL to see you, I guess it was a Christmas show or something? Because I remember the party was at Rockefeller, like at the skating and everything, and you were talking to this guy, and I was standing nearby, and you said, Tracy, come over here and meet Bob. And I was standing there, and you walked away. And I'm talking to this guy, Bob, and we're talking, and he's kind of boring. And after a few moments, I'm starting to see expressions on his face that actually look familiar. And I realized after I'm not kidding, about 5 minutes, I realized it was Robert De Niro.
Oh, boy.
It took me that long to see enough of his expressions to realize who it was.
And was he automatically less boring?
I can't believe I left you alone with him.
Yes, you did.
There was another time where Gilda and I were talking to him, and one of our writers, Rosie Schuster, came up in back of us and tied our hair together. We didn't know it.
Oh, my God.
So that when he walked away, we tried to walk away, and it was really a Three Stooges moment. Let me tell you.
Now, that's... Now, did you guys actually, since you are both, L.A. and Hollywoodish people, did you date famous men? Any stories about that?
Well, Laraine did, but I can't. I mean, I've dated Barry Maguire. That's about it. I can't, that was like in 1960.
And the morning after he wrote Eve of Destruction. I'm kidding. No, but
a lot of comics. I went out with Rodney Dangerfield. What am I talking about?
Wait, what about Rodney Dangerfield?
I mean, my friends like to kid me about it, but I actually dated Rodney Dangerfield. He when he first came back into comedy, and he was hanging out at the Improv in New York, and he was separated. I don't think he was divorced, but he was separated from his wife. We liked each other, and so I went to the Copa with him when he opened at the Copa and stuff, and he was a pretty heavy drinker, though, and so it was a little hard for me to keep up. He was also 20 years older than me.
Yeah, no, because I interviewed Jackie Martling, the comedian, a few months ago, and he owes quite a lot to Dangerfield, but he also said he was sucking up cocaine like a Hoover vacuum at certain points.
He was very tough to be around, Rodney, actually, but he was so funny. Oh, my God, so funny.
Oh, yes, he was.
Well, Laraine, your sister intimated that you dated a couple of famous people. Any famous name-dropping things?
Oh, God, I think it's kind of a little vulgar to do something like that, so,
David Ben-Gurion, perhaps?
David Ben-Gurion, how do you know? Moshe Dayan. Baryshnikov, no, that's a lie.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say Brezhnev.
Well, you ended up with music guys.
I loved musicians. I dated Warren Zevon.
Oh my gosh.
Gold. Had a 3-year relationship with Mark Mothersbaugh from Devo. We are still friends.
Oh.
Offhand, that's why.
Well, what is it about, women love musicians, and then unfortunately they also love drummers especially. What is it about women and musicians?
I couldn't tell you.
But I didn't like them. I liked comics. That's so
That's
funny
true.
that I was in the music business at the time, and I liked comics. And Lorraine liked musicians.
It happens. Yeah.
It's a really interesting question, and I don't know how to answer it.
I don't either.
Well, do you have any, Lorraine, Zevon stories? Because we actually had Crystal Zevon on this program many years ago when she wrote the biography of her husband or ex-husband and late husband. She had some Zevon stories. Do you?
Well, the one I would be willing to tell is I took him to the first Pee Wee Herman show when it was at the Groundlings, and we used references from that, if we were out to dinner and something, and he says, I want to be a clean plate ranger, and stuff like that. I think we saw Raging Bull together, and we're so traumatized that we went all over town looking for sweets, and everything was closed. But that's the only stories I can tell.
Oh, no, fair enough. I don't want to make this embarrassing or anything, but people are enamored of celebrity, and we like to know what they're like and stories that we haven't heard before.
I loved Warren. I loved him. He was so funny, so incredibly funny, and very romantic. And
I think that's the thing that people don't know about a lot of musicians, is how funny they are.
Yeah.
Some of them are so funny, and people think of them as because they're serious on stage a lot of the time, or they're playing, dark songs that they're not funny, but they're really funny.
Warren told me once that his mother's Mormon and his father's Jewish, and he told me that his dad came up to him one day when he was a little kid, and he said, "Hey, Pope of Rome, did you know you're a Jew?" And the way he imitated him was really funny.
Now, speaking of imitations and funny voices and things like that, Lorraine, what you've been doing most of the past few years is a lot of voice work, as you mentioned, on cartoons and things. How many distinct character voices do you have? Because there are some actors, there's like Eugene Merman, you always know it's him, but you have a whole range of character types.
Wow. A distinct I don't think that I've ever done any what one would call iconic characters.
Well, on SNL you did.
Well, I'm referring to voiceover. But thank you, dear. Thank you. I'm what they call utility. Although I am on a series now, it's Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, and I am the Wicked Witch, and that show's doing really well.
What voices did you do on The Trouble with Ginger, or was that the name
Told
of
by
that?
Ginger? I was the mother, Lois Foutley, but I also did a lot of kids. Did boys and teenage boys.
I love your kids' voices.
Oh, thank you.
I just used her kid's voice on one of my CDs.
Let's talk about that CD.
Oh, yes.
My most recent children's CD is called Shoebox Town, and she and I did a song called I'm Not Small, which was written by my friend Marcia Berman. And, I don't remember why I thought of it to do this, but I do the first verse kind of normal, and then she comes in as a kid on the second verse. I love it so much.
It's pretty cute.
You have it, actually. Do you ever play stuff? Would you be playing this? I don't know.
We're going to play about 30 seconds or 29 seconds of it, because if I play 31 seconds, we run into all sorts of copyright trouble.
Wow.
I mean, even though you can verbally
I want
give
you
me
to be
permission.
able to hear her voice in it. So,
Yeah.
it's the second verse. She starts in the second verse. So 30 seconds, I don't know if that'll do it. But, people can run out and buy it.
There you go. And they can get it, by the way, by going to tracynewman.com. Tracy.
Actually,
no.
But that's one way.
Yeah. What's another way?
Unfortunately, we're in the middle of, I have a new company. It's called Run Along Home. And if you go to runalonghome.com, runalonghome.com. If you go there, you will find, currently there's only 2 CDs on there. It's the beginning of a series. And you look for I'm Not Small, and you'll hear Laraine doing her little kid voice on there, and it's the cutest thing.
Hey, by the way, Tracy, did you forget that you dated Ricky Jay for a really long time?
Right, that's true.
Wow, Ricky, the card guy who
throws...
throws...
who that is, Rabbi Sol, don't you?
He throws cards into watermelons, and he has the history of freak shows and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ricky Jay, we went together for about a year and a half, and I learned a lot of card manipulations, and I went on the Carson show doing cards.
That's right.
That was with Johnny in 1974. Look up Tracy Newman, Johnny Carson, and you'll see it on YouTube.
Wow. So what was it like doing the Carson show, the Tonight Show?
It was so exciting, Saul. I don't even know. It's like there are certain things that have happened to me in show business where I was transported into another, and I'm sure it's happened to Laraine quite a bit more than me, but transported into another, mental state, And being on the Tonight Show, I was not nervous at all. We did a gag where I was pulled out of the audience, like I was a shill. And I did this sketch with him, and then he brought me out on the panel, and we talked for 10 minutes. And I looked at it later, and I thought, I actually did that? I didn't remember doing it.
That happens.
So transported.
Yeah, you go in. And what about for you, Laraine? Were there moments, either on Saturday Night Live or elsewhere, where you're just in such a zone that you're doing it, but the second you're done, it's almost like amnesia, and then you look back and, oh my God, I did that.
Well, actually, the SNL 40th anniversary. Being in the Californian sketch, something I had wanted to do so badly, and I suggested it to Lorne, never thinking that he would take it seriously, and then next thing I know, Fred Armisen called me, and we started to write stuff, none of which was used in the actual sketch, but, I wasn't nervous, I was in the zone, I was doing it, felt very natural. And that's unusual for me because I do have a lot of stage fright.
Oh, really? To this day?
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Well, me too.
Well, what do you do? Do you pace? Do you do breathing? Do you shake it out? How do you guys deal with stage fright?
I have a very special way. I always think to myself, they just want you. They don't really care about how good you are. They just want you. Whoever you really are is all they're interested in. That's sort of how I deal with it. And then I relax somewhat.
And what about you, Laraine? Hello?
Oh, I don't know what happened. Oh.
Oh, uh-oh.
Oh.
Well, I will use this break to remind people that we are talking with Tracy Newman and Laraine Newman, and that Tracy has an album out. It's called Shoebox Town Songs for Kids on Run Along Home Records. So you can go to runalonghome.com, and we're trying to get both sisters back.
You know what, Saul? I'm going to give you Laraine so she can answer the question about how she handles stage fright. Just a minute. Here
Sure,
she is.
you betcha.
Hey, beta blockers.
No.
No. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they work well.
What are beta? I honestly don't know what the hell those things are. I just assume they're a drug.
They're blood pressure medication. That's the one I take.
Wait, do you take that normally in your course of your life, or you literally just pop a blood pressure medication when you go on stage?
It's a very low dose blood pressure medication, and it stops that rapid heartbeat trembling that I get.
And a doctor has said this is an okay thing to do?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it wouldn't be prescribed if it wasn't, I don't think.
Oh, yeah,
Gee, you think that could happen?
I'm just saying, no, you've had, with all due respect, Laraine, you've had some issues with substance stuff back in the day. So I'm just wondering,
Well, I don't think a blood pressure medication is the same thing as a mind-altering substance.
Oh, I usually pop 5 before I give a sermon. I just take the blood pressure.
Honest to God?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Sometimes 6, if it's an Exodus. Because execs are especially long. Yeah.
That was a joke. Oh, God, I was supposed to get that. Doggone it. I used it recently for a lecture I did at Chautauqua, and it worked very well.
Well, what about using your sister's idea of everybody wants to see you? You're Laraine Newman. You're very well known. You're beloved from Saturday Night Live. Why does your heart beat? What are you afraid of from people?
Well, Rabbi, it goes back a long way, and I'm trying to figure it out with my therapy. But I have to go, so I'm just going to give you Tracy.
Well, it has been delightful, Laraine.
Very fun.
Very fun talking to you, and we wish you much, much success with many more voices to do. And Tracy, are you still there? Are you there?
You have to go. Oh, she's at a gig. I know that.
Oh.
She looked so cute when she was saying goodbye to you.
Well, she's always cute. She's Laraine Newman. She's adorable, and you're not so bad yourself.
Not so bad myself. Right.
Well, let's see.
What happened to our phone? That's too bad. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine, and we're happy to keep talking to you because I do have many more questions for you.
Yeah. I'm right here.
Well, for example, you worked for a while on the Drew Carey sitcom.
I did. I worked for Drew, and that was an interesting gig. I was what's called a consultant. By that, I know you know the word consultant, but what a consultant does on TV in comedy shows is you come in maybe 2 days a week, 1 day a week, and pitch jokes and, work in the room. I had a writing partner named John Stark, and we did write one script that season, but mainly we just came in two days a week and consulted.
Because that show, it doesn't get the credit that it does. It was out there. It was really pretty bold.
Pretty cool.
And in terms of what it was trying with comedy 20-something years ago, in terms of the sitcom. Now, speaking of being out there, literally and figuratively, I had to put that out. And to be honest, when you first mentioned it, to my friend Dave, that you wrote the celebrated script on the Ellen DeGeneres sitcom episode where Ellen comes out of the closet, we all assumed you were lesbian, and they got you to write the script because of that. But no, you're het, or as the Jews would say, het.
I am het. Here's the thing about that. Goodbye, darling. Thanks for doing this. We had fun. We love you. Say goodbye to Laraine.
Bye, Laraine. Thank you. Laraine, what's your Hebrew name?
Oh, Laraine, what's your Hebrew name? Your Hebrew name. She doesn't know it.
Oy, Gewalt.
Gewalt. That's what it is. It's Oy Gewalt.
But you were saying, Tracy.
We were talking earlier about moments that take you out of your, out of your skin, sort of, where you're just in another world. Winning the Emmy for that. Winning an Emmy. I didn't realize how that was going to be. I thought, we're sitting in the audience, they call the, contenders, and you're thinking, well, we're not going to win because it's me. I'm not going to win, I'm not going to win an Emmy in my lifetime. And then you hear that you've won, and you're walking up to the stage, and you're from then on, you don't even know what happened.
Yeah.
And for like about a half hour, it took me about a half hour to come down. I had to take my shoes off. For one thing, they were killing me because you dress up for the Emmys, and I had taken my shoes off when I was sitting down, so I had to try to get them back on. My feet had swollen by then, and I'm running back, up the aisle. It's just, I don't know what to say. It was one of the most exciting things of my life, really.
But I'm also more curious about the writing of that script. I mean, you had to balance what Ellen wanted to say, plus what the network would allow back then, plus, perhaps turning off a certain section of the audience in red states. I mean, did you have arguments? Were there issues with the network brass and the censor, or just what was the process?
There was a lot of scary stuff. We had bomb scares once we had decided to do it, and when people knew that it was coming, we had bomb scares. We had to change the night of one of the nights. It taped over 2 different nights, and we had to change one of those nights.
Wow.
Of a bomb scare. And the mail, I've never really heard of any mail like that. I mean, it was the most hateful, disgusting, the lowest level of sexual, disgusting mail.
Well, did you also get some...
In fact, they didn't even show it to Ellen. She never saw any of it.
Well, but did you also get mail from people who were lesbian or bi or transgender and saying, hey, thank you for doing this, I'm still in the closet?
I mean, I don't know how people even knew that I was involved in it, but I got home that night after the taping, or not after the taping, but after the night that it showed.
Yeah.
And my machine was full, my answering machine, of people, some of whom I didn't know, thanking me for participating in that and how it changed their lives. And, their father came out that night and, that kind of thing. It was so life-changing for so many people. I think people look back on it now and they don't realize how important that particular thing was, because not only was it the star of the show, but it was a woman, which meant that the word lesbian was going to be bandied about on network television, which, they didn't even want us to use that word on the show.
Wow.
And it just was a remarkable time. And when, you asked me, you just assumed that I was gay because I'd written that. And the thing is, my partner and I are not gay. There were gay people on the staff, but the network and the studio chose my partner and I to write it, and I think it's specifically because we weren't gay that they wanted to get, for some reason they wanted, I'm assuming, they just wanted that take on it.
Or maybe they just figured middle America would be a little more accepting and say, hey, look, the script was written by some straight people, too. They're all collaborative.
Yeah, but there was no way they would know that, though, so that's another weird thing about it. They didn't know. The audience didn't know what we were. And but, we treated it like, my partner and I treated it like, we'd been writing on the series for 4 seasons, and she was basically a character that couldn't form love relationships. She was, just sort of incapable of that level of intimacy. And so we didn't think anything should change. We figured, well, just because she's changed teams, she's still a person that can't handle intimacy.
Right.
That's what the character is. So that was the thrust in our minds. It's just another person she's going to deal with, only this time it's a woman. And she pitched the story, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Ellen pitched the story. She had really worked this out before she even announced that she wanted to do it.
Yeah, well, it took some bravery, and it took some her being established enough in the success of that show that a couple of seasons in, she could say, okay, let's do this.
Yeah, and she could have just come out in her personal life and not on the show, or vice versa, but she chose to do it all and risk everything, and I think she knew what she was getting into, but then when the shit starts to hit the fan, it's hard to get out of the way.
Yeah. Well, no, it was a cultural moment. It's kind of like I was a rabbi for about 3 years before I admitted to anybody that I was Jewish. It was a very...
Really?
Yeah. Just one Saturday morning, I said, you know what? Why am I hiding this? I'm wearing the tallis. I've got the looks, the Eastern European features, the nose. Let's just go. And they see me eating matzah every morning. They're probably guessing, let me just put this out there. And and I still got tons of hate mail from my own congregation. It's very strange.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
We're talking with Tracy Newman.
Matzah and butter sounds so good to me right now.
And a little bit of salt, right?
Mm-hmm, a little bit of salt.
Yes. Hey, did you ever eat the matzah? Did you ever run it under cold water first?
No.
Oh, my God, you have to do that. Next Passover.
Run the matzah under cold water, but you don't let it get soaked. You don't let it really get wet.
No, but you let it get moist. And then you put the salt. Butter and salt. Yes.
Okay.
And it also makes the butter easier to spread, because I don't know what the hell is wrong, but I can't make butter that's regular butter that doesn't have shortening and shit in it. But they don't make a nice, smooth butter that you can spread over matzah. It just cracks everything up. It breaks the matzah. And
everything. You have to be so careful.
Yeah, this is making me angry now. I don't want to talk about this. What I do want to talk about, though, with Tracy Newman, the singer-songwriter... Yes? What?
Well, so what else did you want to talk about?
Well, another TV show you were involved with. It's a shame that Laraine had to go because she worked with John Belushi And you...
Oh, right. Yeah, my partner and I co-created According to Jim for ABC and Disney. And we were under contract with ABC and Disney for years. And by the way, I don't want people to think that this just happens. You know, we wrote 8 pilots. We came up with 8 different shows that were rejected. We wrote for a lot of celebrities, you know, trying to create shows for them. And then we started working on a family show. We didn't have Belushi. We just had the idea, not that it's terribly original, but ABC needed a family show at a certain time slot. So they approached us to come up with something. So we started working on it, and then we found out that Belushi was available, and then there was all sorts of reactions to that because he didn't have a great relationship with the television community at that time. But for us, he turned out to be a pussycat. He was, at least for 2 years there, really delightful and easy to work with. I mean, after that, when a star becomes, you know, the only person that's not replaceable on the show, something happens to human beings. Not all of them. Ted Danson stayed a nice guy, but most of them turn into sort of monsters.
But Belushi did not, or did?
Yeah, well, eventually he did. He had his moments. I'm sure that he was. I left the show when it syndicated.
Wow.
I just decided that was enough television for me. I had been doing it for 18 years, and that's when I decided to go back to singer-songwriting and being a singer-songwriter, which I had been doing in my early years, and then started looking at sort of the horizon of what was out there for children and realizing that there wasn't anybody or very many people out there making age-appropriate songs. You know, things about the things that kids do, like going on a swing or learning to walk and stuff like that. It was all, you know, you see on YouTube, little girls singing the love song from Frozen, you know, so that they're singing about something they don't know anything about. That doesn't mean it's wrong. It's cool, you know, I mean, it's adorable. And there's no reason they shouldn't love those things.
Well, no, but you wouldn't have like a 10-year-old boy singing about prostate trouble, for example.
Right.
Which is why my songs have never been covered by boy bands. I keep waiting.
Yeah, so these are just, you know, I have 2 CDs out right now, and I'm so proud of them because it's all age-appropriate songs. You know, I mean, you can buy these for your children or your grandchildren, play them in the car, and then the next time you play them, they're like hooked, like it's rock music or something. It's like, it isn't rock music, but I mean, you know what I mean? It's like they found this new thing. It's like their thing.
Well, is there...
I'm trying to... Yeah, go ahead.
Well, in terms of now being back in, on some level, the music business, where everything is so fragmented, however, it's not as if you're... In the old days, you have a Rafi on a major label that might have a children's record imprint. I mean, what is it like trying to get this music out in a world that's all iTunes and so forth?
It's a good question. It's, you know, the music business was destroyed really by the fall of the record labels. On the other hand, there's good things about that, too. I mean, there's unlimited opportunity, but it's so fragmented. To actually make money is, you know, unless you're a big star, is very difficult with music, and it gets stolen, and, you know, it's just really hard. Today, it's so funny we're talking about this because I got my first check for these kids' things, and because it's in stores now, and that makes a big difference. You know, and it's the biggest check I've ever gotten, and I'm not going to say how much because it's so little. But it's so important to me that I start to see return for my investment, you know.
Now, is this for Shoebox Town, or one of your other CDs include
I Can Swing Forever, which is the first children's CD.
What, Forever?
Shoebox Town. I Can Swing Forever.
I Can Swing Forever. And also you did A Place in the Sun.
And it's on that same label, that Run Along Home label.
Cool.
And Shoebox Town. It's just for those. It's not for any of my adult CDs.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Just for the kids thing. I have a distributor and everything. It was easy to get a distributor for the kids things, and it was impossible to get one for the adult things.
Now, here's a question for you, Tracy Newman. First of all, I haven't asked what your Hebrew name is.
Oh, God, what would Tracy be? Tracela.
Okay, there you go. Tracela.
That's what my aunt used to call me, Tracela.
No, but this is interesting. Dave, who produces this Facebookio program of the stream, he was in...
that Meshuggah.
Yeah, he kind of is.
Dave the Meshuggah.
He was in an airport just 2 days ago in Boston, and he saw these books, a series of children's books about Jewish holidays. One is called Purim is Coming, Rosh Hashanah is Coming, and I swear to God, another one is called Shabbat Hiccups. And the reason I bring this up is that there's a writer and an illustrator on these books, and the writer's name is Tracy Newman. But this is not you. Yeah.
It's not me.
Well, there's another Tracy Newman out there. And they're on sale at the airport, so I was wondering if that was you.
It's not me. So there's another, it's spelled the same way, N-E-W-M-A-N?
Yeah, that's why, and I think it was children's books, and it was Judaic in nature, which could have been you.
Yeah, but it's not me. I don't write any books. I just do the CDs.
Now,
this music.
Let me ask, though, how Jewish were you growing up, you and Laraine and your family, if at all?
Well, let me just say that the day that I found out we were Jewish was a Jewish holiday. My brother and I, we were getting ready for school, and my mother said, "You don't have to get ready for school. You're not going to school. You're Jewish, and it's a Jewish holiday." And we were running around the neighborhood yelling, "Yippee, we're Jewish!"
Nobody has ever said that in the whole history of our 5,000 years. Nobody's ever said, "Oh, hooray, we're Jewish."
Yeah, nobody's ever said that.
Yeah.
So I was thrilled.
Oh, mit Mazel. So do you keep any, do you go to Seders in the neighborhood? Do you do anything on Yom Kippur?
Yeah, I used to, like in the 60s, I went to a Seder that was Theodore Bickel and his father were running it. Were whatever it's called when they're the leaders.
Right.
The rabbis, or his father was a rabbi or something. I don't know.
The late, great Theodore Bickel, whom I interviewed several years ago on this program.
Oh, you did?
Yes, 6 degrees of Bickelism. All these people we mentioned, oh my God, yes.
Well, I was there because I knew Alex Hasselhoff from the Limelighters. I don't know if you were...
Oh, I love the Limelighters, of course.
Yeah,
I'm not being
Alex
sarcastic. They were great.
By the way.
What? Sorry? What?
Alex Hasselhoff is still around.
Oh, I should try and find him and get him on the show. My goodness. Because they lost one or two...
I can find out for you, because my friend Art Padel is friends with him.
Well, if he's available and if you can bring him on the program, we'd love to have one of the Limelighters on the show.
Okay, I'll find out from Art Padel if he's, what shape he's in, because I don't know. I don't know anything. I mean, he could be sick, he could be well, I don't know.
Well, there's actually a special respirator that can plug into a phone. They even have iron lungs now, where you can be in the iron lung and have a better, it's almost like quadraphonic sound, because it bounces off.
So that you can be on the radio no matter what.
No matter what, in a grave. In a grave, you can be in the grave, and we can still get a couple of answers. So, more like tapping. 2 taps for no, 1 for yes. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
We've been talking with the delightful Tracy Newman. Please, please, please go to runalongrecords.com.
It's runalonghome. Runalonghome.com. That's how you remember
runalonghome.com. Right, or you can go to our other website, tracynewman.com. Remember, the holidays are coming, whether you celebrate Hanukkah or those Goyish ones and the black one. Either one, you're going to have to give gifts. You're going to have to go to people who have families, and it's like, oh, shit, I got to buy something for the kids. Buy them a CD.
They're so great for kids from 0 to, I'd say, 7 years old. These are gold.
Well, they are, as we say, gelt. They are gelt.
They are gelt.
Indeed. And it has
I want to tell you a little story about my daughter. Do we have time?
Absolutely. And Mazel Tov, as we said, you're not a lesbian. You've been married for a while. So tell us about your daughter, who's part of your production company.
Yeah, she's the artist she does the CD covers and the coloring books and stuff like that related to my things. But anyway, her name is Charlotte Dean, so my ex-husband is not Jewish, right?
Oh, well.
So when Charlotte was like 3 years old, she was throwing a temper tantrum on the floor, and we were just sort of watching her and thinking, what the fuck is this, Really one of those crying, meltdown things. And we kept saying, what is the matter? What is the matter? And finally she said, let's see, how did she say this? She said she started crying and she yells out, Mommy's Jewish and Daddy's Christmas!
That would be traumatic for anybody. I would be crying if that were true. That would be very, very sad for me. But I am not sad at all. I'm delighted and thrilled to have been talking to Tracy Newman, and of course give our regards as well to Laraine for joining us for the first part of the conversation. It just remains for me to thank you, to wish you blessings and great luck and success in your further musical career and everything that you do, and to thank you again for joining us in the neighborhood. And shalom to you.
Shalom to you. Thank you.
Bye-bye now.